It's the 22nd of November 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and welcome to part 2 of the update in relation to this international government fraud. And we're going to be talking about Kerry Hindmarch, who is somebody else that appears to have been sent very close to me and been very supportive, who is now turning completely against me, like several are, as I'm getting closer to the truth in all of this. But before we do that, because it becomes relevant, I'm going to be talking about the Wuhan outbreak in China in 2019. And the chain of events around Wuhan in 2019 helped to support the evidence that the COVID and vaccine situation was possibly to hide the threat from directed energy and the larger deception surrounding the Collider technology. In April 2019, Julian Assange was supposedly arrested, and this is the same month that significant changes appear to take place within companies on Companies House, whether it be companies start, companies change their names, or companies dissolve. And we're going to have a look at a timeline of events surrounding Julian Assange now and talk about how relevant this is. So this is a BBC article from June 2024, which is when I'm starting to expose the connection to the fraud and the blood taken from tortured children. And actually, that links very, very closely with Julian Assange. And you'll see that within my document. And the timeline states from here that in 2006, Assange co-founded WikiLeaks, a web-based dead letterbox for would-be leakers. Now, this is the same year that I transfer from Kent to Dorset, not knowing anyone at all down there. It's also the same year that the very important movie in all of this, which I think is going to be really important, the Da Vinci Code, about a deception within Christianity, is released. In April 2010, WikiLeaks releases footage of US helicopter firing on civilians in Iraq. In August 2010, Swedish prosecutors first issue an arrest warrant for Assange on 2 separate sexual assault allegations, which Assange says are without basis. And it was, and then we've got December 2010. But just prior to that, in November 2010, is when CERN Limited is founded on Companies House, and that actually dissolved last year in 2024 as I exposed the threat from CERN and the Collider technology. But in December 2010, Assange is arrested in London and bailed soon after. He begins appealing against the international arrest warrant, according to this. In May 2012, the UK Supreme Court rules he should be extradited to Sweden to face questioning over the allegations. Now, this is the month after Jeffrey Epstein has held a meeting with CERN scientists and Stephen Hawking in a American Virgin Island, there was an article that claims that Stephen Hawking was trying to get CERN to create a black hole on Earth. Now, that was in April 2012, and you can see here in June, Assange enters the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Well, it was the 4th of July, the month afterwards, that CERN created or discovered the Higgs boson or God particle. In August 2012, Assange is officially granted asylum. This is the month afterwards. And while addressing reporters from the balcony of the embassy, he demands that the US drops its witch hunt. In February 2016, a UN panel rules that Assange had been arbitrarily detained by UK and Swedish authorities and calls for his freedom. This is when the Pizzagate scandal is starting to be exposed, linking the crimes against children to politics. In May 2017, Sweden's Director of Public Prosecutions announces that sexual assault investigations into Assange are being dropped. This is when Donald Trump is starting to become the President of the United States, the 45th President. In October 2019, Assange is given a set of house rules by the Ecuadorian embassy. The same month, it is revealed that he is launching legal action against the government of Ecuador, accusing it of violating its fundamental rights and freedoms. Well, this is when Gordon Bowden is really emphasising his evidence and exposing his evidence in relation to the non-verification element of the Companies House fraud and how that relates to Finchley Road. In November 2018, it is revealed that the US Justice Department secretly filed charges against Assange. In April 2019 now, the Metropolitan Police enter the embassy with the Ecuadorian government's permission and detain Assange for failing to surrender to the court over a warrant in relation to 2012. 2012 is also when the London Olympics took place, and during the Olympics, the water sports element was held in Weymouth, which is where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive, and the research from Julian Assange links almost immediately to Deborah Fleming and the international government fraud, and every area of research surrounding Julian Assange links back in to what I'm exposing. And this will explain why, even though I had an email for Stella Assange, his wife, saying that I had evidence of international government fraud and contacted them, I had absolutely no response. So in May 2019, Assange is sentenced to 50 weeks in jail for breaching his bail. In May 2019, same month, a federal grand jury in the US indicts Assange on new alleged violations under the Espionage Act. In May 2019, Sweden reopens the sexual assault investigation and the US reveals its charges against Assange. He begins fighting extradition in the courts. November 2019, a month before the outbreak, Swedish prosecutors discontinue their rape investigation. If we skip forward then to June 2022, this is the month before Anthony Roberts of Exbourne Manor resigns. Okay, this is when I'm starting to make the earlier inquiries in relation to Exbourne Manor. It says the UK government orders the extradition of Assange to the US, but his case continues to be tied up in appeals. In February 2024, Assange's lawyers launch a final legal bid to stop his extradition at the High Court, a high judicial authority for England and Wales. In May 2024, the High Court rules Assange can bring a new appeal against extradition to the US. On the 19th of June 2024, Assange signs a plea agreement with the US and the High Court grants him bail. Now, within 10 days prior to this is when Prince William held a secret meeting with MI6, which is massively linked into everything. And Prince William is connected to all of this as well. And I suspect that meeting was in relation to the release of Julian Assange. And you can see he's released 24th of June. And during a couple of photographs, I've seen him linked to a lawyer who links almost immediately to Ghislaine Maxwell in my document. And also he's photographed with what appears to be, and it's almost certain he is, Belinda McKenzie, who is linked to the McKenzie Friends. And she links to the Knights Foundation, which connects immediately to the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry and to the research of John Wedger, a Metropolitan Police officer supposedly trying to expose international child trafficking, but refusing to use the evidence that I have got in relation to it all. In July 2019, there were protests regarding a planned incinerator plant in Wuhan, China. Articles claim Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly arrested, and another article claims Prince Harry was wearing the same pair of shoes for a prolonged period of time, which, with other evidence connected to a company called Harry's Shoes, linking to the World Wide Web and CERN, we have to consider that the shoes that he was wearing was made of the skin of Madeleine McCann. And there's a bit more in relation to that it's a whole other subject. In August 2019, the following month, Jeffrey Epstein supposedly dies in prison and cell towers are erected in Wuhan. Note that the Guardian article below confirming this and that the Guardian is part of the agenda. The articles make reference to ICNIRP, appearing to deliberately try to undermine the possible threat from cell towers. And ICNIRP links very quickly into the research of Mishcon de Reya. And Mishcon de Reya, I suspect, is tied to the de Reya family of Exbourne Manor, the company that I was removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents. And they also, Mishcon de Reya, make connections to the royal family, having been used by Princess Diana in her divorce and other members of the royal family. I've been in touch with those that were supposedly involved in protests regarding waste sites and planned incinerators in the UK. Particularly relevant is the site in Fleetwood in Lancashire, a key area where Nicola Bulley disappeared and where the apparent infiltration of the royal family may have occurred. It is unlikely to be a coincidence that one of my contacts in relation to this, identifying as Kerry Hindmarch, was being contacted by someone claiming to be David Salt, an employee linked to CERN and UK Fuels Limited. The Facebook profile for David Salt, and you can see it says he is an external consultant at CERN at the top there, when at the top now, and underneath it a former net developer at UK Fuels Limited that we're going to look at in a moment. UK Fuels Limited Ltd does not seem to exist on Companies House, but UK Fuels Limited, with the full limited word, was incorporated in 1988, the year before the World Wide Web was created for CERN. It is a criminal organisation, having been incorporated with the same two companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. We'll just have a quick look at this on Companies House. UK Fuels Limited, incorporated 1988, filing history. Remember, this is the seems to be the company, although it's the limited is just changed on it, so it looks as though they've got rid of the actual limited that he's advertising as and put the full name. And just to confirm, Swift Incorporations, here you go, and Jordan's and Sons, same as Exbourne Manor. And just going into this company, Charles Latham connects to 34 companies, including Group 4 security companies, I believe, which then makes the connection to the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom via Paul Condon. There you go, G4S US Investments Limited. When did that dissolve? Yeah, it dissolved as I continued the exposure of the fraud, December 2023. The address of 50 Broadway is on the incorporation document for the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, which links to CERN and to Jimmy Savile, and they are now scrapping the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners. You've got another G4S company. You can see when he resigned, look, all these resignations taking place as the fraud is being exposed. And I believe that the Jock Condon, who was the person that befriended me in Dorset when I transferred from Kent to Dorset, he was the person that introduced me to Exbourne Manor in the first place. And it was our Sergeant Ben Pope who introduced me to my wife, all staged, I believe. This month, Hindmarsh publicised a TikTok video showing a huge change in her support of me and in support of the strategy. Kerry had been supportive previously and in fact appeared to have been presenting evidence supporting my claims until they decided to pick up on a male-female pronoun in my document and secretly recorded a phone call with me, appearing to try and undermine me and accusing me of supporting transgenderism. Interestingly, it was in relation to Julian Assange. Despite, or the Chelsea Manning, the person that supposedly supplied intelligence to Julian Assange. This is despite me publicly affirming that it is part of the agenda against creation, and I stick to that. It is. It's a very sinister part of their agenda, I believe. So let's have a look at why Kerry may have done this. Well, I was getting very close to the truth, I believe, and I'm getting even closer. But just before we do that, although I'd not previously mentioned it, had not previously publicised it, Hindmarsh had previously disclosed that her brother is a Freemason, that she refuses to mention publicly or expose, despite Freemasons being hugely implicated in the fraud. The timing of the changes to Kerry was as I started to identify a possible deception within Christianity, and she has since collaborated with Aisha from God FM, which supports this, as well as them both making efforts to try and turn me against the Muslim faith group, which would support the Freemason occultist Albert Pike letter agenda, which is that letter was removed from public view according to the research in 1977, and the same year that I was born. Kerry is shown as being a former director for for One Day Only for S3A Trading as Belong Limited. That's the name of the company. It was incorporated on the 28th of February 2011. This is 6 days after the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand, and it is in the process of being struck from the register. And I'll just show you the record. So here's Kerry's name, and for One Day Only. Now she's confirmed this is her as well. Now you can see a director for One Day Only. If we click on the company, we'll see it's actively proposal to strike off, so they're getting rid of the company, and it was incorporated 28th of February 2011, and the earthquake was on the 22nd of February 2011. Now this is the same year that Jimmy Savile supposedly died, And within the company, there's 2 records for David Hardwick, I believe. We have this record and then this record. So this record only has the 1 company, same date of birth, so there's a duplication of records. And if we go into this particular record, we have 6 companies, including there's an Africa company, which is potentially relevant in all of this. But we also have Sheffield Domestic Outreach Service, which suggests there's going to be an element of the police involvement with domestic violence or abuse. If we go into the company, it was incorporated in 1995, so the same year as the Hacklow International Advisory Board, which is on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, and has since dissolved as I've exposed it, and it dissolved in May 2017, which is as Donald Trump is starting to come into his presidency. And within the company, if we go into the people record, we have Linda Glover somewhere here, hopefully. There's a Betts as well. Now, Diana Betts is a director within Exbourne Manor, possible relative. You can also see connections to Sheffield here, which becomes relevant in a moment as we go forward. And Linda Glover should be here somewhere. Here we go. Linda Glover. What's her role? Oh, probation officer. Interesting. Probation officer connection. Okay. And we have 2 records. We have Sheffield City Opera, and if we go into this company, now this company was incorporated in 1999, which is the year, I believe, that the Large Hadron Collider started to be built, I believe, and then it was activated in 2008. And the relativistic heavy ion collider that was in New York was actually activated the year afterwards in 2000, the year before the World Trade Center disaster. And this company dissolved as I continued to expose the fraud in 2024. Now, opera companies feature at relevant times throughout the fraud, linking in with the collider technology, it seems. And I think that's because the opera experiment was the experiment taking place at CERN, with CERN and also a facility in Italy at the same time as the Christchurch earthquake on the 22nd of February 2011. And within this company, Michael John Willis, we can get to it. I suspect that Kerry Hindmarch isn't her real name. That's what I suspect. She uses an alias name on her social media of Mayors, I think it is, and I think I'm finding some connections to that within the research. So here's Michael John Willis, and he connects to KM Willis Consulting Limited. Now, I knew that KM very often leads to religious establishments because it links into Kent Messenger, and therefore the Canterbury religious connections to the Archbishop of Canterbury and the infiltration of the royal family again. And when we go into this company, you'll see this one was incorporated in 2009, which is not long after the creation of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that links all areas of the fraud, and it dissolved as I continued to expose the fraud in 2023. And within this company, Kimberly Willis connects to religious establishments, churches together in Broomhill and Broom Hall, and also St Mary's Bramhall Community Centre and St Mary's Conference and Catering Limited, which I suspect is a religious establishment. We have that one again. And this one, which one is it? This one dissolved as I make my first report to the authorities, December 2022. This is also when there's key movements around the Pizzagate scandal. And you can see it was incorporated in January 2011, not long, less than a month before the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand. If we go back to the catering company, this company was also dissolved in 2022 in December when I made the first report, and it's been around since 2003. If you look on the filing history, you'll see it's a criminal company, started with the London Law Agency. There you go. You can see the London Law Secretarial, and notice the address, 84 Temple Chambers, Temple Avenue, London. This makes major connections throughout the fraud. The word temple is very relevant in all of this, and that makes links back into my family. Okay, and also it makes connections to Tommy Robinson and the deception around pretty much everything that's going on at the moment. Here you go, you have the London Law Agency Limited. So this is a criminal religious establishment company. If we look at the people record in the same company, we have a connection. Bear with me. Sorry. There we go. So if we go into Reverend Graham Charles DeWar Duncan, then we find a link to Age UK Sheffield Enterprises and Age UK. Now, we've already been talking about that, linking in with the Rapid Response Team. Okay, the Age companies are making lots of connections now to the same people in what appears to be the doomsday cult against all of creation. And it looks like, unfortunately, Kerry is connected to that, and so are these other people that are being sent my way. Well, you can see here the addresses for these companies. Yorkshire Fire and Rescue. Yorkshire Fire and Rescue. Now, the fire organisations for the government are massively implicated in the crimes against humanity and the deception. I think this has been set up a very long time ago in relation to everything I'm exposing. And if we go into Age UK Sheffield, we'll see it was incorporated. Is this the right one? No, sorry, it's this one. Age UK Sheffield Enterprises. We can see this was incorporated in 1989, the same year that the World Wide Web was created for CERN. You see the previous names at the bottom here. Changing its name, May 2011. Originally called Broomco 339, which links straight into the international government fraud. And within the people record, Andrew John Harrison, I believe. Interesting surname, Harrison. It connects to 16 companies, including Sheffield and District Society of Chartered Accountants. If we go back into my document and search that, if I can get the right. Sorry. I'm trying to do it sideways. I'm not used to writing that way. We can see, if we go to the other entry, that it already links in around the research. You can see it here, Sheffield and District Society of Chartered Accountants, exactly the same company. I'll go back to it. Exactly the same company. And that's coming in from the research, which links into criminal United Nations companies. Okay, fraudulent United Nations companies set up with the same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. And you can see this on the other document. So this is coming in You can pause this if you want. I'll just, if I go zoom out, it just moves the document around. Sorry, bear with me. If I go back to that, I'm not going to read all of this. You can slow it down and look at it. But this is the United Nations research and coming in from a connection above, and how that then links into that exact same company. And they are completely criminal United Nations companies. And then this links into very quickly to the research of Siemens, the Nazi regime, and the apparent crimes against children. Going back to the research of Kerry, we have Carol Ann Marsh connects Sheffield Domestic Abuse Outreach Service to Your Mackenzie Friend Limited, that was incorporated in October 2025. We've just been talking about Belinda Mackenzie, and here we are. We have Your Mackenzie Friend. She actually started Mackenzie's Friends, okay, Belinda Mackenzie. The founder of Mackenzie Friends connects straight to the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry into Julian Assange, and Mackenzie Accountants connects David Icke quickly to my family, as shown elsewhere in the document. Marsh also connects to Hillsborough and Area Advice Service, with a Hillsborough company of Sheffield and Sheffield making apparent quick connections to my family, as shown elsewhere in the document. Now that then links into the Hillsborough disaster again, which we'll have a quick look at it actually. This is my research surrounding the cell tower overlooking Fort William. I'm just going to scroll slowly. You can take your time reading it, pausing it. And it becomes very, very relevant. It links in with McDonald's, it links in with Jeffrey Epstein, the Flemings, all areas of the fraud coming in from this cell tower. And you then see that we hit information on the Hillsborough disaster, which I will talk about a little bit. This is all coming in from the cell tower. Connections to CERN. We then, it also makes connections to the blood of the tortured children, coming in right back from the beginning of that. The research shows, coming in from this, that Critchley and Schindler are established in the entertainment industry, with Schindler having won several BAFTA awards, already linked to the fraud from Rishi Sunak and Carol Vorderman. Schindler named her Red production company after Manchester United Football Club that was also part of the fraud, and she produced a dramatised account of the Hillsborough disaster of 1989, the same year as the World Wide Web was created for CERN. Manchester United Football Club Limited was incorporated in 1907, but has a re-registered document from 1981 attached with the London Law Agency, making it a criminal company again. Referring back to the Hillsborough disaster above, and we'll just have a quick look actually of the, this is the Wikipedia for the person that we reached on that research from the cell tower. She is. It's Nicola Schindler. And then within here, it talks about Hillsborough. You can see it there, where she was the producer for Hillsborough, a dramatised event. And here's the Manchester Football Club. According to this, incorporated in 1907. No other names shown on the overview. We look on the, is it here? We have a certificate of re-registration from private to public limited company in 1981. So they re-registered it for some reason, okay? And we can see on the re-registration that it is a criminal organisation with the London Law Agency again. And the London Law Agency links directly to Keir Starmer's company, the Death Penalty Project Limited, and immediately to the Madeleine McCann case. You can see they've gone over. It looks like there's two records here. You notice the Temple. There's a Temple address here somewhere. You just see the word Temple. Temple Chambers again underneath. Look, the exact same address, okay, that we were looking at earlier. And you can see it at the bottom here, Temple Chambers. and the London Law Agency is a criminal organisation. So referring back to the disaster, the research shows that it occurred in 1989, the same year as the World Wide Web was created for CERN. Although the incident caused the death of 97 people and injured nearly 800, no investigation results were released until September 2012. This is 2 months after CERN discovered the Higgs boson, or God particle. With all of the evidence available, we have to consider that they were waiting to see if CERN could end the world, potentially, because it looks as though they were trying to create a point of singularity by forming a black hole, as the 2012 phenomenon had speculated. And here's the timeline for the disaster. You can see 2010, September 2012 is when they actually formulated the response to the investigation, even though it was in 1989. And this article, interestingly, April 2022, as I'm making inquiries within Exbourne Manor, and 2 or 3 months before Anthony Roberts actually resigns from Exbourne Manor. You can see the 1990 and 1991 key years in the timeline as well, when David Icke comes out and says the world will be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. And then you then have this information from September 2012. After sitting for 2 years, the HIP publishes a damning report into the tragedy. Is highly critical of the emergency responses, but they wait until after then. And notice the Mackenzie name, former Sun editor Kelvin Mackenzie. I really need to research that person. A company called the Hillsborough Club Limited was incorporated on the 2nd of October 2012, not long after the report of the investigation came out. And it is a criminal company with Companies Made Simple on its incorporation document, making a connection to the paedophile information exchange via the National Council for Civil Liberties and to the research of the World Trade Center disaster. The filing history shows that on the 27th of March 2018, as Gordon Bowden is exposing elements of the fraud, the company has a registered address of Tax Matters Solutions. I then go in and research that company. Jack Joshua Levine was appointed to Hillsborough Club Limited in July 2024. As I established the connection to the fraud in the adrenochrome, and Levine connects to Sheffield FC, the oldest football club in the world, established 1857 Limited, and it was incorporated in 1995, the same year as the incorporation of the intelligence agency and Russian government-linked Hackler International Advisory Board. It is a criminal company, having been incorporated with the same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and its incorporation document also appears to be forged. On the 16th of September 2022, as I'm making inquiries with Exbourne Manor, and 8 days after the supposed death of the Queen, LSG Sports Limited of Egyptian House ceased to be a significant company of control, and on the 17th of March 2025, a Richard Timms ceases to be a person of significant control. This is one letter short of my brother-in-law's name, who connects to Jimmy Savile very quickly via his family and the main Freemason lodge. Now, it could be they're using alias names, wouldn't surprise me. And the research suggests that Sheffield Football Club actually is the oldest football club in the world, and a huge element of the crime against humanity is the laundering of the money through the football clubs. We then have various other connections going here to Vision Homes, key years throughout, and we then have connections to the National Children's Bureau and other children's related companies which feature right the way throughout the fraud. And in fact, they link into the National Council for Civil Liberties that was affiliated to the Paedophile Information Exchange. Further down, we then have, coming in very quickly from this, we have an Evergreen company, Evergreen Installations Limited. And we have a company called Dead Horse and Donkey Traders, occasionally dealing in swine limited, which makes me think of the horse meat scandal of 2013, where I know companies link back to the apparent child trafficking network as well. We then, from Ian Scott Cameron, connect Sheffield Football Club, the oldest football club, to McCann's Food GB Limited, that was incorporated as McCann International Limited in 1980. It has a forged register and Jordan's and Sons Limited on its incorporation document, meaning it is a criminal company. Alison Jane Rance connects McCain International Limited in 1980 to Arla Foods Limited. That is part of the fraud and is featured in the research of Tommy Robinson. And it appears as though they were trying to poison humanity via the dairy industry using the Arla food chain. Part 3, when we'll be looking at the Police Investigations Review Commissioner and how this appears to be tying in with the family of Donald Trump and critical information surrounding the police investigation system.